Welcome to another HEF podcast. That is the podcast of the Home Education Foundation. The Home Education Foundation is an organization that was founded by the beloved Brenda Dickinson and her husband Craig Dickinson back in the early 1990s. Just after securing a win for home education-minded families, parents who saw themselves as the educators of their own children, in 1985 in the state of Florida, making it truly the free state of Florida, where parents are free to educate their own children the way they see fit, set their own standards, and set them off in life. We thank you for being with us today, and we thank Brenda for the legacy. We hope that we carry that torch forward as parents of the free state of Florida and do a good job. We have a fundraiser that we do every year. Well, we started it last year, and we're going to do it every year. It'll be the new annual fundraiser. There is a donation match challenge, and we have secured a sponsor for this year. So we are excited. In the terms, the details of that will be forthcoming. But for all the parents who participated last year in August, we thank you for your support, and we thank you for being the dedicated parents that you are, and supporting the work that we do and raising and teaching and educating your own children. And we look forward to that. We will have a design contest. So what you see up on the screen is the challenge coin from the first ever 2025 donation match challenge. And those families who participated got a challenge coin that was sent out to them. And sometimes when we have a very unique interaction with a senator or a representative or someone of note, then we will also bestow one upon them. And it's interesting because we have a very limited number of those first editions. And it's cool if you are one of the ones who has one, and a matching senator or representative might be floating around out there with a matching coin. And you might run into them at some point, and it would be very neat for you to share that moment. Anyway, we thank you. There is a design contest coming, and we will have more details on that as we move further toward conference season, because it'll be exciting, and we'll launch it then. And we want to say thank you to our top sponsors, Arete, FPEA, Fisher Precious Metals, and TBHC Group. Notably, among these, FPEA, the largest conference, it might even be the largest conference in the country. It is definitely the largest in the state of Florida, and it is the, what do we want to say, oldest? The most time-honored convention in the state of Florida. The most time-honored convention. And so if you are unaware, this is a wonderful time to get together as a home education community and see all the people. You know, we are a small part of the population, and we sometimes just run into the same faces all the time. But to see how big the community really is and all the things that are there to support it, it's a wonderful thing. And if you're kicking the tires of home education, it's a great place to go to hear people speak and to talk about their why and their vision and what truly matters in life, and to kind of help plant some of those visionary goalposts for your home education journey. And also, we have the TBHC Group as one of our top sponsors, and their event is also coming up. The FPEA event is a Memorial Day weekend. It always is Memorial Day weekend. I kind of took that for granted that people would know that, but maybe they don't. And so now you do. The TBHC's conference is in Tampa. That's the Tampa Bay Homeschool Conference, and it's a younger conference, but it is rapidly growing. And they are one of our big supporters as well. They have a big heart to support the work that we do, and a portion of what they raise from that event actually goes to support us and the work that we do. And their conference is on July 18th, and I have it on good authority that there is, in fact, an early bird special code. And let me get that for you. An early bird special. So if you go to their website, which is tbhcgroup.com, and you access it and you want to get a ticket, use HEF, that's the Home Education Foundation, HEF 26 for 2026. HEF 26 will be a special code for you to use, and there is an early bird special. So get on there, and if you're getting a ticket, get a good deal on it too.
Mhm.
Some people show up the day of, and the ticket prices are not as good a deal as the early bird special. So, if you're a planner like my wife and not a fly by the seat of your pants person like me, I would highly recommend using that code and doing the early bird thing because it is much better to save money. All right, Brenda, good
Good
day.
morning.
We are,
Afternoon.
I almost did it. Good day to you. How are you?
I'm doing
Good,
great.
good.
You doing okay?
I'm having a morning. I feel a session wraps up and I struggle to relax. Um, because while we're fighting over bills and language and lobbying in the Capitol, that's one thing. But then all the calls start coming in from all the district personnel who don't know the current law, much less what's changing in it. And they're telling
Exactly.
parents things that aren't true, and the parents don't know. And so helping the parents feel confident in their choices, push back, um, advocating for them. There's a lot of emails, a lot of calls. There are a lot of moments where I'm scratching my head thinking, this has been around for 30 years or 20 years or 15, depending on what the issue is. Like, how do people
Right.
not yet know? Is there a heart? Is there just a malicious intent to disrupt parenting and to pull authority away from parents and treat them like morons? They can't possibly know what's best for their own kids, or can't possibly know what the district school should or shouldn't do in a certain situation and make a call for themselves because they're only parents. By the way, they're just parents. That's a what a loss. What a sad position to be in life. You are just the parent. you know Shame on you,
Right.
moron. like not a certified stranger, as my son would call it. You are not yet certified as a stranger. So, anyway, so we
I think for the districts, though, that many of them are new in their
yeah.
positions and they know public school law very well.
Hmm.
And some of them just can't grasp that parents have so much freedom.
Yeah.
It's like, how could that be? How could the state allow an uncertified
Hmm.
person to teach your children, be it you or somebody even in a private school? How could that be? Because certification makes you smarter than the
Exactly. That
average.
piece of paper.
Not,
Wield it, and it makes you strong and smart. Suddenly you have it, and therefore,
I,
no.
I actually went through the education training when I was in
Hmm.
college. My major was home economics, but nonetheless, it was home economics education. And what they mainly taught you was class control, how to present something like a demonstration or on a board or whatever. They never got around to the content. And that bothered me. I kept asking, when are we going to learn what to teach? Oh, you'll get that when you get to the school.
Oh,
So maybe a little different
yeah.
now,
You don't have your
but
marching
you
orders yet.
know,
Shut up
yeah.
and get in line.
So you don't have your
Yeah.
curriculum, you don't know what you're going to teach. So people think, oh, the teachers have all this great knowledge. Well, they know how to teach, they don't know what to
Yeah.
teach. And I think the home education families are more about what to teach than they are how to teach it, which is to me a big difference between what we
Sure.
do and what the public school
Yeah, and
does.
I recently ran into a situation where a parent was having a problem, and that kind of came in, but it came in as both what to teach and how to teach. Unfortunately, there was a family that was just they're struggling. The mother and father are not getting along, and I think they're divorced or getting a divorce, but I think they're divorced, and so the kid is in the middle, being caught up, and one of them doesn't want the parent to home educate, and the other one is using FLVS Flex as a way of having a curriculum provider and a track and organizing everything. And it was an interesting conversation that I had with one of the representatives from FLVS, because the one parent is thinking, oh, they're home educating, they can't possibly be learning anything. Um, and I've got to put them back in school. And that everybody has opinions. And the other parent is like, well, they're learning. And I found it interesting that as the FLVS representative was speaking to me, he was saying that there are stopgap measures and policies in place for face-to-face interviews with the student to ensure that in the interview, the verbal interview with the student, they verify that it is the student and verbally ask them questions to see if they have, mastery of the subject matter. And another note that he said was they get to take the test because like one of the things is with FLVS, we never give an F. And I thought, well, that's interesting. And he says, well, yeah, because they get to take the test until they show mastery. And I thought, well, that's just like home education. And that's not like public school. You get one shot, you take it, you get an F, that goes on your grade. You're stuck. Retake the whole thing. And it's both kind of how to teach and what the subject matter is. Oftentimes that's very different. And I thought it was interesting how aligned with the heart of home education FLVS Flex was, because historically I've heard horror stories about FLVS, and I've heard wonderful things about FLVS, and we used it when our daughter took driver's ed, and then she went and passed her driver's ed course with flying colors. There were no issues there, and now she's a learning driver. Yeah, and it's just interesting to me though that like there are sometimes differences, and I wish people could see that. It's hard to get them to, with being such a small part of the population, and then with COVID and the PEP scholarship and the giant boom, it's been a little bit more challenging for people to really wrap their minds around home education culture, that your freedoms are so near and dear to you, and that you would stand up for them, and that you would know what your rights are, and that you would explore the boundaries and limitations of all of those things with customizing education for your kid, and that it doesn't end up looking a lot like what translates into public school or private school or college, but it does translate into mastery. And that I find very interesting with all the people who are graduating and they're looking to get a handle on life, and I've said this before on the podcast, but it's almost like they go through school and they get an education, and then after all of that, graduation and college, they go to the self-help section at Barnes and Nobles and get really prepared for life. It's like you could start that a lot earlier. Anyway, I think I jumped down a philosophical hole, but
well, but you do know that FLVS was started with home educators and rural districts in mind, and they built their model on individuals, not classrooms. Right. And so thus their motto is anytime, any place, any path, any pace. Mm-hmm. So an individual can finish early in the course, or they can take longer if they need to do some remediation. Mm-hmm. But isn't that the way home education works?
It is. And I just find that a lot of people they aren't aware. We're all so busy. We're minding our own business, doing our own thing, and getting our Amazon shipments delivered on time. And if not, we raise Cain, And if our latte or our Wi-Fi is too slow, or our latte doesn't come with the right amount of sugar, we get upset. Why would we know anything about some of this stuff? It baffles me, but here we are all living together trying to get along. And I'm thankful, to be honest, for one, the free state of Florida, good leadership, and two, you, and all the hard work that you've done, and those early moms, man, and dads. I gotta say, I ran into at the West Palm Beach, I ran into a number of fathers, young fathers, and they were decision makers. We'll just put it that way. They were leading, and this was what their family was doing, and it seemed to be a bit more of a strong central vision, and that people like that are the heart and soul of home education, that they will look at things and see them as they are and make their own choices, regardless of whether or not everybody else is going with the flow and doing this and trying not to be, I don't want to be a bother, but yeah, we don't mind. We kind of don't mind. We would rather, I would rather be in my 80s looking back on life and go, you know what? I don't regret anything. What is it, Sinatra? I did it my way. Not from a standpoint of arrogance, but if I'm going to own the results in the end, I kind of want to have a say in how it went. And as a home education parent, you get that. And I appreciate that. I appreciate you and those early mavericks who kind of stuck out, and bore the brunt of the fear. There was a lot of fear in those early days, and you just weathered it.
And rightly so.
Yes. And that's what I think a lot of people just don't realize. We live in a point, like I saw someone the other day, man, I feel like we're all over the place, but I saw someone the other day on Facebook or something. She was 100 and she was a nun. And I want to say she was like 113 years old. And I just thought, wow, what she has seen. Think about it. Like what? 113, it's 2026. This goes all the way back to the early 1900s. What she has seen. That's mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. Man. It's really, really cool to get that kind of history. Anyway, there's a lot of things that I'm sure that we have been born into and take for granted that she saw struggle and emerge and change and get negotiated over and fought wars over. She has probably seen a lot of those things firsthand that we take for granted because it's just this is life now, this is how things are now. All that stuff is done. And now I live in this segment of life. My kids do, but a lot of kids don't know life without technology. And, we didn't have computers in homes or cordless phones or cell phones. We went through payphones, having to find a payphone somewhere to get a message to somebody. Oh, I need to call so-and-so.
I don't know if they even exist except in the airport, maybe.
Yeah. Who knows? But things have changed, and we can lose touch. We can easily lose touch with how we got where we are and how the important role that plays in preserving what's important to preserve and adapting and changing what needs to change. That history has to inform as we move forward. It's just key. Speaking of things changing, this is special session week. It's the beginning of special session, and there have been a few bills filed. No, so far, nothing is for education. So far, it has been the assignments for conferencing over the budget. There is, let me look at my notes here. The AI Bill of Rights was a Senate bill that saw bipartisan support in the Senate, and the House Senate didn't agree, so it didn't complete. So a special session bill of that has been filed to be combed through, I think. And there is a bill that is linked to that in regards to public records and AI. And that's Senate Bill 2 and Senate Bill or 2D and Senate Bill 4D. And if you're looking at that and thinking, oh, AI, yeah. I don't know what everybody's opinion on AI is, and it doesn't really matter what your opinion is. And then we're not really going to opine here either on it. But I think that if you are a education technology company, you've built a software or you've got some sort of teaching tool, you really want to watch this closely because this is heavily aimed at there are some heavily aimed pieces at AI and its use in education. And there are studies that have been being conducted on screen time and all kinds of stuff like that. And amidst all of this is the question of, sure, there are dangers, what do we do with that information, right? It's also dangerous to swim when there's no lifeguard on duty. So you kind of swim at your own risk, so to speak. There's going to be a tight line that's walked in regards to education public school, education private school, and education by the parents on their own. And I think that we have to keep our focus on parental rights, and that's what we do. If a parent, has an opinion and they're of a mind and they want to customize the education for their child, it's theirs to do and should be. So these are important things to kind of keep an eye on. But if you're a tech company, you also want to keep an eye on this because, how this impacts or what the AI will be allowed to do or not do. You'll need to know that if yours is going to be a viable product that anyone can make use of. So I would highly encourage read it and go through it and be aware of even if it doesn't pass, be aware of what's being argued over, because you need to understand the trend of the problems, the trend of what people are proposing as solutions. What I like to watch for, aside from the technology end of it, is how do people argue away your choices? No, you're all too dumb to know this. We should decide this for you, so we're going to tell you what you can and can't do with this thing. That's a problem. I find that fundamentally to be at direct odds with parental authority and parental rights. And so it's going to be very interesting because I think the first battleground that conversation is going to play out on is going to be private schools. In particular, private schools who are recipients of state funds. So the question will be, well, if we're going to tell public schools what they can and can't use for AI, that's one thing. If you're going to tell private schools, who are private by nature, they have their own board, they govern themselves, and they work with their own parents, they're a private school for a reason. I think they have the autonomy to make those decisions for themselves. The question becomes whether or not they're taking state funds and what leverage and how much leverage over decision making should that give the state. Brenda, you're kind of shaking your head and rocking back and forth. So you speak up and chime in. You have a lot more history with this. You helped write some of the private school. Was it the code when they did the complete rewrites back in 2000? Is it 10 or 2? 2. Okay.
2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, basically, we just, during that 6-month event, weekly we met and we just cut and pasted all of the statutes into a different section or order or eliminated them. But I did lobby for private schools when they were creating the scholarships. And constantly I was saying the same thing you're saying, is these are private schools. And there were some people that were conservative that felt like in order to be sure that schools were doing what they needed to be doing, that the Department of Education needed to visit private schools. And I said, no, you're not. There's nothing in law that allows you to do that. They're private. What part of that don't you understand? We had a big meeting. Some legislative staff was there. And they started off with a question, who has a problem with the department coming in and evaluating private schools? Well, I didn't have to say another word because the private school representatives that were there ate them alive. But
the hands
so
are
they
up
backed
everywhere.
off.
Yeah.
Backed off. And they said, okay, what can we have for accountability? And so I ended up basically developing the accountability for private schools that take scholarships. They were already laws in place that private schools had to follow. And so the department can do a checklist and say, did you get a fire inspection? All of the things that were in law prior to this time were health and safety issues for children. And personally, I agree with that. If I'm going to send my child off to a school, I want it to be a safe environment for that child, and make sure if there's a fire, you can get out the doors. You know, you have to have certain types of door handles in private schools. And they were not about curriculum or parental rights. It was all just physical facilities. And so we fought and we fought and we fought. We've been able to win so far in keeping the state out of the curriculum that a private school chooses to use, and telling those kinds of things. But the more that they feel empowered because the private schools are getting money, then private schools are going to have to step up to the plate. And I don't see very many of the private school leaders in Tallahassee lobbying to maintain their rights. And FANS, which is the Florida Association of Academic Non-Public Schools, was an association of associations of private schools. So you had back then 28 different associations that were part of that, and they maintained a lobbyist. And then, you know, at some point they decided it was too expensive to have a lobbyist, and so the private schools either have their own or they don't have one. And like I said, there's only one or two groups that I know of that even tracks legislation. So you're going to give up your rights if you're not there arguing for yourself to have the freedom, just like it's so important to have you there lobbying for parents who choose home education or PEP. Then the state's going to do whatever they want to do, and they're going to say, well, we have a right because we're giving you state money. And you have to beat back those opinions and, you know, and stand your ground.
I think it's very important to also keep in mind, I like to think outside the box and ask questions that it seems like no one's asking. Like, so what if no one does anything about this? What if no one does anything about AI? Then what? You know, brainstorm on those situations. I think that parents who are looking at their students and they're going, wow, my kid's not doing well at this private school, whatever the reason ends up being, whether it's because they've leaned too heavily on screen times and AI and digital education, or if it's because such and such a teacher has just got it out for their kid and they're not blossoming or flourishing, or there's a lot of bullying, or whatever the reason is, they can look at their kid and go, hey, they're not flourishing. They're not doing well. And if they are a recipient of a scholarship that is allowing them to go there, they can still shop around to another private school that might be a better fit. And so I think there is a natural inclination for parents to do that with their students, regardless of if they're a recipient of the state scholarship funds. And so the state seeking to control this in a micro adjustment kind of way, I do look at it as overreach in these certain situations, because it's coming into the private entity and telling them on this micro level thing, you are or aren't going to do things in this way. And I do think the private schools are right to push back on that and work directly with the parents to do what's in the best interest of the student. And if that means, hey, we leverage AI for this, you know what I would love to see, and if the AI Bill of Rights goes a bridge too far, you won't see it. But what I would love to see is a debate class, a civics and debate class, in which you teach the principles of debate, you teach about civics, and then as a part of also demonstrating the limitations of AI, the hallucinations of AI, the importance of validating sources, you make the students debate with the AI. Right? So you can arm them for certain debates, enter the prompts, and then argue. I have done this myself, and I have found the way that it twists words. And it will do things like word bomb you. It'll use a word so many times with various different meanings, and then it'll go back and answer your question the way that is incorrect. But it's word bombed that word so heavily that it's obscured the definition. And I'm like, this is a tactic. This is a tactic people use too, but this is a tactic, and you have to understand that. And the AI, it's very fluid at doing things like that, and specifically using it instructionally as a way to demonstrate its limitations is a very valid use of including it. And I'm interested in watching this, because if, depending on how they introduce the level of controls that they would put on it, it may or may not kill something like that, which would be, in my opinion, and this is Crawford's opinion, this isn't law, this isn't truth undeniable, it's just an opinion, but I think that would be a great use of it. In fact, I enjoy using it that way personally, and I oftentimes show it to my kids how it hallucinates. Like, imagine that. But I do think that there are also the reality of averages. You know, what is the average person doing? Are we just mindlessly leaning on it? Is that good? You know, it's not good to drink and drive either. And it's not good to, you know, there's a lot of things that we do also put parameters and control on. And so in a society of laws, there's always a give and take between your freedoms, your personal authority, and how it impacts everyone around you. And so it's still a conversation that has to be had. And I'm interested in watching the debates. I'm interested in watching how they put forth the legislation, what it does. But I do think that private schools are right to push back on any instruction or regulations on how they can or can't use AI in regards to teaching, because that should be up to the private school. If it's a matter of saying, hey, you have trusted the public schools, you by default, also, here's the difference between a public school and a private school. This is a categorical difference, by the way. You choose a private school, you come out of pocket and sacrifice for a private school, or you have a scholarship, but I know that even that doesn't cover the total cost of some of these private schools. So it's a choice that you're making, right? You don't have a choice whether or not to go to a public school, because in the state of Florida, attendance is mandatory in some option. And they go, hey, it's absolutely mandatory. You must go. By the time your kid reaches this age, you've got to be there. Butt's got to be in a seat. Otherwise, you're truant. Get to one now. All right. And we've provided them for you. It's free. It's a free public school provided for you by the taxpayers. You must go. You have no choice. Oh, wait, you're going to enroll in home education. All right, well, do your own thing. That's fine. That's your choice, right? You do have that choice. But in regards to public school, which many, 96% of the population still leverages. Well, I don't think it's that high. That's the difference between home education and public and school in general. It's still large, but the majority of the population still leverages public school. And so you send your kid there, you trust that they're certified strangers. They tell you they're certified strangers. They take the position of authority. They tell you that they know everything. So yeah, it makes sense for you to regulate them and their use, because a lot of people are just, without a thought, abdicating their children to these institutions and trusting that they will do the right thing by them. So sure, you should know the data, you should see what the studies say, and you should regulate them. That is within the purview of what a state should do in a state-run school. That's what government schools are, public schools are. But a private school is not a state-run school. It's not a government school. It's a private school. And home education is not a state form of education. It is the parent form of education. And at every level that you get away from public school, you become more and more parental choice. You become more and more empowered as a parent to be involved and to make your own choices. And so I think it is right for them to push back on any regulation on AI in private schools.
Well, I think if they were going to put anything in the bill to regulate private schools, I think they should require private schools to put on their website or tell parents, we're using AI for what purpose.
Yeah.
So parents know, And number two, as long as parents have a right to pull their child out of that school and go somewhere else, then you've left it in the category of parental
Right.
choice. You don't want to regulate private schools, but you want to make sure parents have the right to determine whether their child goes to that school or not.
Bingo. Yeah, you nailed it, and that was very well said. You hit a part I think I missed. So that is a great, yeah. Thank you for adding that to the conversation. That's perfect. So, but okay, so that's what's coming up in special session is Senate Bill 2D. It's the AI Bill of Rights. Linked to that is Senate Bill 4D, which addresses the same topic but in regards to public records. And then there's Senate Bill 6D, which is the Medical Freedom Bill. It touches on a conscientious objection to vaccines and other medical choices. I can't remember all of them off the top of my head. I don't have all of my notes here. So if you're, I mean, a lot of times home education families are very interested in other types of freedom and parental authority over choices. That is also a bill that's up. The Senate has proposed it. To my knowledge, the House has not proposed any bills at all. Speaker Daniel Perez has previously also signaled that he would prefer the federal government to regulate AI, and he's kind of deferred that off. So I don't even know where any of these are going to go in special session. They didn't make it through regular session, so we'll see. They are assigned committees for the budget, so we're also waiting and see. There's a lot of wait and see happening right now, and I think it's kind of annoying to be in that position, but it is where we are. So we will just keep following, and we'll put out updates when we learn things that are, especially that are pertinent to education. Nothing so far has been filed on education. Nothing has been filed on the scholarships or digital devices or any of that type of stuff. So we're all still kind of seeing what will happen yet.
How long is special session supposed to last? People might be interested in that.
I don't know because, I mean, I feel like what happened last year was unprecedented, but I'm not sure how long it's going to take.
Because the main thing is they have to get the budget out before July 1.
Yeah, there is a deadline for that. Who knows if they'll meet it or find some loophole rule to, I don't know, but it'll be very interesting. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of it. I was looking at my notes here, and it's everything is just kind of wait and see is what I have written down, and it is. I wish I had more to report. This just in, wait and see, but ultimately that's just kind of where we are. So frustrating as it is, happens to be our reality that we live in. If you're wanting to follow though, and you're wanting to keep up with things, our Discord is a great place for that. I know that I have recently gotten some questions on Discord, and there was a question I was getting a lot in email, and let me explain a little bit about the benefits of Discord. I know that you hear a lot of things in the news about how these people are using Discord or those or whatever, and some people just absolutely hate anything that anyone uses that gets linked with some sort of nefarious purpose, but it's a very great organizational tool. You know, I don't know if they also used pen and paper to write down the notes about what they were going to do, but I wouldn't look at that and go, man, I'm never using pen and paper again because somebody wrote something down and then did something atrocious. It's like, that's kind of, I don't think that tracks. So, but it's a very powerful tool. And here's why we have chosen to employ it to do what we're doing. One, we created a channel for every county in the state so that if you are a new to homeschool person or a veteran and a leader in your community and you keep up with things, but other people don't, maybe they don't have the time, but they want to know, or you're like, hey, it would be really important for us to get to the school board meeting. They're deciding on this. Having someone in one of those channels in your county to post on things like that is a massive help to the whole community in your county. And it's different than a Facebook group by things like that. It's not a 30,000 person Facebook group that are all just in one big thread together. There are silos. There are all kinds of things that you can not see and choose to see. So if you just want to follow your county, great, go for it. There are people who are having questions, valid questions about scholarships, and they're in there. Some of these questions, I'm scratching my head going, wow, well, I haven't heard that one yet. And some of them, I get the same kind of question many, many, many times. And then I start to see like many emails come in from the same county. So there's an issue that's coming up, and I'm like, wow. It sometimes takes 30 minutes to an hour to write a correct reply to some of these emails, because we put sources from the statute and we grab documentation from the Department of Education and we link that into the email. And whenever someone asks a question once on Discord, we can do all the same things. Hyperlink to the statutes, upload the DOE's memo on this, or assistance paper on that, or rule code 6109941 on this, and we can link to all of those things, and we can pin them, and they can stay visible underneath a very well-worded question that someone has, so that if other people are looking for it, they go, oh, I have that same question, and they can get those. And if I do that once and 100 people can see it, that's great. But if I do it 100 times, that's 100 hours. And so it
right.
As a matter of being efficient and trying to do the work that we do, it is very important that if you are listening to us, hop in our Discord. Please make use of it. Jump in there, benefit others, by sharing your ideas when they have questions. I want to thank some of the people who are in there. There are plenty. There's Brad Campen. He watches over Alachua. He posts on what the school board is voting on, and we have Laura Brenner, I believe, and she's always answering questions. We have a lot of people who are watching it, and they're ready to willing to help. And it's great. It's a good tool. One of my favorite parts of it is the debate club. There is a bunch of debate opportunities and civics opportunities and scholarship opportunities in the state of Florida for home education families without having to go to a public school or a private school to participate in these state-sponsored scholarships and contests that are available. But you don't always have somebody to practice with. Sometimes you have the benefit of a co-op near you, but if you're rural, you don't. And our Discord is a great place where you can go share, oh, I read this book, I read that, but it's for the students, for them to get in there and connect and share ideas, or post, here's my argument on this, and post their little video, and then get some feedback, and get critique and help, and build a sense of community. And I love the fact that in the debate community, as people grow up and older, they kind of stay connected, because those little relationships that they make through those kind of like moments where they go toe to toe, they stay connected later in life. And it's really cool to see. And I'm hopeful that we're able to be a part of that journey for some people and provide that for them. It's free. There's no cost. All you have to do is join and benefit. And that's it. There are some rules, so check that out. It is not a place where you'll find self-promotion. We don't allow that in the Discord, so you're not going to get there and get ad spammed every other day or many times a day of, oh, I've got this program, come check us out. We've launched a mini school over here, come check us out. We think we're homeschoolers, come check us out. You're not going to get any of that. You'll get good answers, linked sources. We do have a rule about when you post an answer to something, not just an opinion, it has to be, so backed with sources and information. This is a community rule, something that we follow ourselves as admin, but it's also something that we expect the community to also do, because that's what we're going for, accurate information sharing. That's why we built it. So you have a place online that isn't the rumor mill. It isn't overpopulated Facebook group with people from states other than yours. By the way, homeschooling laws are not the same in every state or country. And so those thousands and thousands and thousands of people in there, while it might feel comforting to be one among many in solidarity, you don't always know if you're getting a Florida response from statute with references and linked sources. And I think that's critical if you live here and you want to know what your rights are and you run into a problem. So, Brenda.
if you don't know your rights, then you can't protect your rights. You'll just fall in line with whatever somebody else tells you. So accurate information is really the important part to protect your rights. The other thing I was going to ask you is, would that be a place in the individual counties where somebody could post support groups, or like where they can get classes for homeschoolers in their counties? Because a lot of times new homeschoolers have a hard time connecting with other homeschoolers. And so the Discord would be a place where they can connect.
Yes. Now, I will say that we do allow our vendor sponsors who are, say they have a co-op and they're like, hey, we love the work that you do and we sponsor you. And they're just saying, hey, come visit us. We're a resource to parents. We do allow that type of thing because that's how our community has grown over the years anyway, is those grassroots level people connecting and getting together. And yes, that we do absolutely allow. Hey, this is happening over here, just so parents should know. It's a great opportunity. I think your friend Lisa sends me the Tallahassee, what's the nature museum up here? She's like, oh, they're having such and such day. I'm like, that's cool. If someone were in those counties posting those types of things, that is also very useful information for people to have. So yeah, we do love seeing that kind of stuff posted there. Yeah, it's a great question. Let me think. I think I've covered the bases for today and the information that we had. We covered the legislative update, special session started, where people can find information. It is, I think the work that we do kind of has seasons. It is the season where the statutes are changing but haven't changed yet. And so there's still not a lot of people who know of what's coming down the pipe. And maybe it technically hasn't changed yet, but it will change. And so you might see some of these conversations, or people just in the county don't know, but maybe positions are changing right now. If you need help in a county and you're having issues, reach out to us. We had a parent who was wanting to participate in extracurricular club at a school, and the school is pushing back, telling her that she can only do it at her zone school. That is absolutely not true. We worked with Senator Simon on a bill, even this session. We worked on one last session to disassemble the zone school aspect of it, but we went further this session with Senate Bill 538, which is done. It passed the House and the Senate, and it's been enrolled, but it hasn't been sent to the governor's desk yet. We're waiting on that key moment for it to get on his desk and get signed. It will be by July 1st, regardless. So that's kind of how the things flow. I think they're trying to give him due diligence of time to let him clear enough room to go put pen to paper and sign it. There's so many other things right now with the redistricting and the AI Bill of Rights and the budget, and there's a lot of heavy hitting issues that are on the docket. So I think that's just what's kind of holding it up. But I don't have any specific insight. But there are going to be people who are superintendents or school principals. This parent in particular was approached by the person coaching the club and at the school, and the principal said, nay, this is not allowed. That student is not zoned for us. And so I'm kind of working with the parent right now to kind of walk them through how to have that conversation with the principal. So those are things that if you might start seeing those emerge. Yeah, this is kind of that season for that as personnel change or as the laws kind of change. And so there's a little bit of a different, this was updated and they don't know yet. You're going to hit some of those conversations. Absolutely. You can email us. Very much preferred use Discord. But we are hitting that kind of season for the work we do. So it coincides with our travel season.
And I might mention too that during the summer, hopefully sooner than later, you also have a call with the Department of Education and the school district home education contacts. So you'll have the opportunity to educate the district people on the new laws so
They'll
that
know what's coming.
there will be somebody there armed with correct information when it comes to extracurricular activities.
Yeah, that's something that I think maybe a lot of people don't also realize that we do, which is we act as a resource the other way toward public schools when they have questions and they go, man, we're not so sure about this, but we know you guys have been in it, the weeds of it for 40 years. So they will ask. A lot of times it's not the superintendent or principal. It's the lower level people who know us or have heard of us, and they'll reach out to us. And then sometimes the power struggle we end up facing is a little higher up the ranks, so to speak. But the statutes are what they are, and no school board can make policy that is not in alignment with statutes. And so if they have, that's an issue that they have to resolve, but the statutes reign supreme over that situation. So it's something that we sometimes...
We saw that in one of the counties last year. Or was it the year before? I lose track of time. Where they felt like they could make up their own policies, but they were overriding state law.
Right.
So
state law is state law, and so they can't make any policies that disagree or are not in alignment with state law. So,
and then a lot of times there is administrative rules that are written by the Department of Education to spell out more specifically what districts are supposed to do and what student rights are.
Yes.
So we always have to watch for that. I just think that generally people are not aware of how much work really goes into maintaining freedoms in the state of Florida.
Yeah.
I just wanted to throw in a few things because you spend a lot of time on this. And, without having Jason there, your rights are in jeopardy every single session. It can be an and or an or, A-O-R, or they can strike something and it can be just a number, statute number, and then all of a sudden you've lost the right you didn't know about because somebody's not watching it very carefully.
That almost happened this session. Yeah.
No, it happens very infrequently, but it happens often enough. You have to read every word, research every statute that's in that bill, and make sure that with the language, we're not losing some rights.
Yes, absolutely. And Laura Brenner is here in our comments today, too. Thank you for being with us, Laura. She says some of the district liaisons are so resistant to new policy and correction. Not all, of course. You're correct. And I think that there is this tug-of-war match between ignorance and malice. And I heard a quote that was like, never attribute to malice what ignorance can easily explain. So I think that whatever the reason is, when a parent has the right for something and it's being taken away by just the assumption that the school is going to tell you how it's going to be, you or the parent, you have to know your rights. And whether they just don't know, or this is the way we've always done it. I heard someone today say that if someone was robbing a liquor store for 30 years, just because this is the way they've always done it doesn't suddenly just make it okay. And I'm like, well, that's a great way to illustrate that when something is wrong, it's wrong, regardless of how long you've done it. And that's valid. Well,
I will say that for Laura, though, these district home ed calls give Jason the opportunity to spell out the law, point it to them, and because DOE is hosting it, these district liaisons feel like this is truth and they have to do it. So the fact that DOE brings Jason in to give him credibility also gives him the connection to those districts, and we can put pressure on them if they choose not to obey the law by using DOE to give them a call.
Yeah, and that is the nature of what we do. It means that we're constantly doing a lot of work to make the relationships and to be a resource, to just answer questions for people, constantly researching and just doing the work. I don't know another way to say it other than you put a lot of work out there for free. And then people start to see you as the resource, and it's a mountain. It's a mountain on the back in terms of research and time and effort. But it's not something I'm unwilling to do. It's just I have always kind of approached all things in life that way. I think that early on, I don't remember who it was that gave me the advice, but they said just show up and start working, and eventually they'll have to pay you if you do a good enough job. And I was like, all right. Businesses don't like that because there's a lot of rules about who can and can't work and how they get paid and what, overtime and all these kinds of things look like. And so maybe it wasn't the best advice, but it did give me that spirit of just do the work. It needs to be done. And while we're all sitting around waiting for somebody to raise their hand or get paid to do it, it just needs to get done. And it is a mountain of work. And there are a lot of people with a lot of questions. And I'm not tooting my own horn. I just see it.
We're just telling the
I
facts.
just see it and do it. And I'm not afraid of the work. Now, the mountain size of it is sometimes overwhelming. I got to take a break, but it doesn't scare me. And with or without, I hate to say it, but with or without support, I'm doing it. It is what it is. But it would be a whole lot.
But we also have to recognize that you have a family to
it'd be
support.
a whole lot better.
And this isn't a part-time job. It really is a full-time job. And you do other things to try to bring in income for your family. But the job is a full-time job year-round. And so if parents, grandparents, friends, relatives appreciate the fact that we have such a free state in Florida, a few bucks a month would really help our cause to keep you doing what you're doing.
It does. And I have checks over here that you can't see that I have to go cash or put in the bank rather for people who show their support. So whether you send in a check or you go to our website at flhef.org/support and you pick one of the monthly options that are there from $5 a month. We've tried to do it. If there are 152,000 home education students in Florida, with a fraction,
even $1,
with a fraction of them supporting, we probably wouldn't even have to have these conversations. Like we wouldn't even have to talk about it. But we aren't fully funded. We're constantly right now trying to find the funding. So if you know someone who does need to support, I think, or hasn't yet, and you are, have that conversation with them. It would mean the world to it does mean the world to us. In fact, I was talking to my kids because they've been on this crocheting bit lately, and I was like, here are some of the people who support the work your dad does. You're making these things for your friends and you're having a good time, but like if you just wanted to send a thank you gift back, by all means, like you could. I'll give you their address and you can write them a little note and send them a little something in the mail. And they were like, "Wow, yeah, we'll do that." So I don't know. I'll see what they come up with, but it'll be interesting. You never know. You may be one of those people. So when you're filling out your contact information on the website too, make sure to put your contact info in there, your address and stuff, because you never know. You never know. I'll leave it at that.
Why don't you show them the little crocheted animal back there? It makes a baby gift. It's a cute little baby gift.
So this it's a nine-tailed fox, and they made part of it with glow-in-the-dark thread. So when you turn the lights off, some of the tails actually light up. And they made it because, I don't know, I kind of like the nine-tailed fox, and I think they saw a fox in one of their little crochet things. I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if... And they were like, let's go make that for Dad. So, yeah, they're so creative. They kind of, like, go outside the box and do their own thing. And this one is really funny. This was actually from one of the senator's offices. It is a dumpster fire, and it says emotional support dumpster fire. It's fine. I'm fine. Everything is fine. And I thought, man, my kids could probably make that. That's hilarious. And so he gave me one, and they made him one in return because they could, in fact, make it that said, even a dumpster fire is a light in the darkness. So,
Oh, I
yeah,
like
it
that.
was, they took that to him. He was presenting one of his bills. It was Senator Burgess. And you could see when he was presenting his bill, it was like on the little rostrum that he was next to. It's funny. Anyway, well, I think we have maxed out our time and perhaps attention span for the day. I want to thank you guys for being with us. There is lots to come. We'll see what the special session holds, and we'll keep following it. If you're new and you haven't seen our podcast before, that's kind of what you can expect, at least part of what you can expect here. We will have other special guests. I think next week we'll have someone, hopefully. I've got to get them to confirm, but it is planned to have someone special on from FPEA and let them talk about their convention and things that are coming up. So we look forward to that as well. Don't hold me to that, but the invitation is there. There's just a lot happening with them right now. If you're praying, pray for them. There's a lot of things in their personal lives that are going on, and some individual family emergencies that have happened and stuff like that. So while things are still moving, and that's great, our hearts go out to them. We love you guys at FPEA. We look forward to having you on. If you can't make it next week, no worries. We'll find the time. And we'll pivot. But we want to tell you thank you. Thank you because you're also one of our top sponsors, FPEA, Arete, Fisher Precious Metals, and TBHC Group. Thank you to parents, the free state of Florida, for supporting the work that we do. And without further ado, we thank you for your time and attention, and we let you have your Monday back. Go do parenting things. Be free.